Hello and welcome. In this session, we are going to learn how to analyze the options which are used to migrate the PostgreSQL to Azure Single Server or PostgreSQL as a flexible server, which is there in the preview stage. So what we are going to do is we will see what are the different options which can be used, like what are the criterias that decides like which how to migrate PostgreSQL, which is there on premises, or there is a virtual machine in cloud, and how to migrate it to the PostgreSQL in Azure. So we are going to learn the different options which are available. So as usual, I have mentioned everything in a notepad and we will go through that. For the demo purpose, though we are not going to do it step by step, I have mentioned everything where the same things have been done earlier as well. So I have a virtual machine which is running in Azure, and the host name of that virtual machine is source PG. We have Postgre 12.5 running on it, and it is a lightweight virtual machine. The another one which we have is it is a Azure database for PostgreSQL Server. This is Azure database for PostgreSQL Flexible Server. So the for our demo purpose, what we have is the flexible server and single server. From the demo perspective, the only thing which we need to understand is the user which we are going to use to connect to the PostgreSQL for managed instance in Azure. So that is having the username without the host name. But in case of the single server, you have attached it with the host name. So that's the only basic difference. But there are a lot of differences. We are not going to talk about that. So let's go and see what are the things which helps in analyzing the options to migrate the PostgreSQL to Azure Single Server or PostgreSQL Flexible Server. So we can migrate the PostgreSQL in Azure database for PostgreSQL by migrating your database into the major version. So when we say major version, let's say if I'm saying 9.5, 9 is the major version, zero point 0.5 is the minor version. And if I'm trying to upgrade it to 12.5, that means 12 is the major version and 5 is the minor version. So for the migration purpose or the upgrade purpose, where in the destination is there in the cloud for PostgreSQL flexible server, it is going to the higher version, which is the 12. So we will see what are the different capabilities which are available. So for this setup, we have the source, which is infrastructure as a service. So we have a virtual machine, which is, let me show you. So this is my virtual machine. So I have connected through it to it through the putty. And if you say psql-u postgre-h, then the host name, I'm able to log in, and if I say /l plus, it is going to show me the different databases which are available. The database for our usage is DVD rental, which is 15 MB in size. And the target database, the target is there in the, let me quit out of this, clear the screen. And our target is, the target host name is target Azure pg.postgre.database.azure.com, and we are trying to connect to it using the Postgre admin, which is the admin user for the database. And if you see the list of the databases which are available over here, this is Azure maintenance and Azure sys. They are the admin databases which are available in Postgre Azure, and Postgre, this is the default database which is available. Then you have the two template databases available over here. And now we have seen we have a source database which is running in Postgre, and there is a target which is we have created using the Postgre Flexible Server. We are not going to see how to create this. This we have already seen. So we'll analyze what are the different options which are utilized to migrate from on-premises, or in our case, infrastructure as a service, to Azure PostgreSQL Flexible Server. So we have two ways. One is the offline method, another is the online method. When we say offline method, we mean to say that the database during the upgrade or during the entire migration, that will not be accessible to the application. That will be a complete downtime during the upgrade or migration activity. And once the migration is completed, then only you have to switch to your new database, which is on PostgreSQL Flexible Server. So in offline method, you can use pgdump and pgrestore. So pgdump, which is going to used for dumping the database in a dump in a file, and using pg underscore restore, the dump file which is created using pg underscore dump, it can be restored using pg underscore restore utility, and the restoration will happen onto the PostgreSQL Flexible Server. The other way is online method. See, online method is applicable when you want your source Postgre database to be up and running during most of the time, and using the database migration service tool, which is available in Azure. This is going to fetch the data from your source database, and it is going to dump into the target environment, and whatever changes are happening thereafter, it is going to pick up all of them one by one, and it is going to replicate it to the target environment. So database migration service is used for one-time load plus continuous data change capture. So that is known as CDC. So it has one-time load plus CDC facility. So it depends upon your application what method they want. If they can afford downtime, you should go for the offline method. If the business criticality of the application is huge, they cannot afford a huge downtime which is required for backup and restore. In that case, it is advisable to use the online migration service tool, which is database migration services. And what are the deciding factor? First of all, you need to check the database size. So if you fire this, though we have L plus, which you can fire into your source database, and you can find out like what is the size. Otherwise, you can use the SQL statement as well. And if you see, it is going to, using this command, it is going to show you what is the size of the database. The database in this question, which is a user database, it is DVD rental, which is 15 MB in size. We are going to migrate it to Azure PostgreSQL. Not actually we are going to migrate, but we are going to see what are the different options available. What is the decision maker for the upgrade? Like, on what basis we can decide like which way we have to use? The first one in this is the size of the database. If you see the line number 1, a small PostgreSQL DB, if it can afford downtime to upgrade, you can go for the offline method, which is pgdump and pgrestore. So this method is applicable if your database size is less and it can afford downtime. Go for the offline method using pgdump, execute on the source, and pg underscore restore, that is going to restore the database onto the target Postgre Azure instance. And this method is not applicable for DMS because you can afford the downtime. The second is small Postgre database less than 10 GB in size. Regardless of whether it is asking for offline option or online option, if it is independent of both, then both of these methods are applicable. You can use pgdump and pgrestore for the dump and restore of the database. During that time, the database should be inaccessible to the application, and once you are able to restore the database into the target Azure instance, then you can switch your application. The other way is your source PostgreSQL, excuse me, your source PostgreSQL instance keeps on running, and it is going to suffice the application requirement, and using database migration service tool it will keep on loading the data one time, and whatever changes happen after that it is going to keep replicating them. So if it is a small database and you do not have any choice, you can go and try both of them. If your database is of medium size, the size is between 10 GB to 100 GB it is, and if you there is no restriction whether you can go for the offline or online, then you can use both the method. You can use offline way, wherein it will be unavailable during the migration, and using the DMS it will be available for most of the time, unless or until you decide to switch over during the last sync process. If your database is large in size and if it cannot afford the downtime, better you go with the online service, which is database migration services. If downtime is not a problem, size of the database is also not a problem, then it is always advisable to go with the native backup and restore utility. In this case, you have pg_dump and pg_restore utility available. Better you go and use them. The other option is DMS as the option, which needs modification and some changes. In case you wanted to go with that, there are some prerequisites that has to be met onto the source environment. And if you are going to use the DMS as the migration tool, then in that case, you can freeze the changes on the PostgreSQL source instance. That means DDL and the tables with no logging, that should not be allowed. Or it should be considered that no table will be created, or there should not be any table with no logging, so that the changes they are to be captured into the WAL files. Prerequisite for dump and restore your source environment. First of all, you need to check the version of the source environment. In our case, the example which we had taken, if you go and check the source version, it is 12.5. It is always advisable to have the target or the intermediate instance of higher version. And our target PostgreSQL, in our case it is also 12.5. So in case you are going to use an intermediate server, in that case you need to install a client which should be higher in version as compared to your source, because from that middle server or intermediate server you are going to run pgdump and pgrestore utility. In case you wanted to run it from the source server, you need to transfer those dumps to the intermediate server. And one of the recommendation will be the intermediate server, wherein you are going to install the PostgreSQL client, from where you are going to invoke pgdump and pgrestore utility. It should be in the same region where your PostgreSQL managed instance is running. This is going to speed up the entire migration activity because it has to be there in the same region, and the availability of the data speed will be better. What are the additional important points recommended for the consideration? The first one in this is you should use -c along with your pg_dump. What it is going to do is, if you use -c, then it is going to put create database command as well in backup dump. So if you fire this command, if you see this pg_dump hyphen, this is your source database name -u, source database username -fc. So in that case, you are going to put it in the customized format, the database name and the location. So we are saying pgdump -c-h. This is my source server name. This is my username, and we are going to put it in this file. So if you use -c, what happens? It is going to create database command will also be included into the dump file. Otherwise, what happens during the restoration time, if you don't use this, you have to explicitly create the database on the target managed instance of PostgreSQL. So this is to be considered. Second thing is, you have to find out the list of the databases that you wanted to migrate. In our case, if you simply say psql -l plus, this is going to show you what all databases you have to migrate using the and in this case it is DVD rental, which is 15 MB in size. The next step which is to be considered is the connection string. So the way you install Postgre on a virtual machine, it is same, because whatever you have done it on your or on premises, the steps would be same. But if it is a managed instance, what I mean to say is the Azure database for PostgreSQL server. In that case, if you have to connect, better you go to the connection string, and there will be something as psql, and here you can see the detail. What is the host name? You can see this is the host name, this is port, this is DB name which you wanted to. It is not mentioned because you may have many databases, so I'm saying I wanted to connect to PostgreSQL. The important part over here is the user. In case of the single server, the user comes up with the username at the rate hostname. In case of flexible server, it is without the username. So that's the only difference, and that is something to be noted. And you can find all the information from the connection string. And if you wanted to use Azure Cloud Shell, then you can use that. We wanted to talk something about the offline method to upgrade the PostgreSQL and the different challenges which are there. One of the challenge which is available is the supply of the password. In case you have to migrate, let's say I have 500 databases, each one of 1 MB in size or lesser than that. And if I have enabled the password, which for security reason we should have been doing, in that case, every time do I need to enter the password? No. What you can do is you can export there is an environment variable which is called as the PG password. So you can uh, export that on your shell, and what it will do is it will help in supplying the password when you try to log in. So let me show you that and how it is going to be helpful. So if I say env pipe grep pg, there is a environment variable which is pg underscore password. I have kept the password just for this demo. So if I try to connect psql-u, this is my Postgre source database server, whose name is source pg, and the user is Postgre. If I press enter, it is not prompting for password because I have already feed in the password into environment variable using pg underscore password equal to password. So it is helpful when you try to do the migration. You don't have to pass these parameters manually again and again. If it is a Windows environment, you just make sure that you put the set pg underscore pg password equal to whatever the password it is. In our case, what we have done is we simply mentioned export pg password equal to whatever password you give, it is going to take that. And the next thing, when you try to import the dump which you have taken in one step, and when you try to restore it using pg underscore restore, By default, SSL is enabled on PostgreSQL server. So it is not going to allow you. It will throw you the error. PG restore tool failed, and it will show you without TLS the error may read fatal SSL connection is required. Please specify SSL option and retry. We will see this, and what you have to do in that case is you have to set the parameter pgssl mode equal to require, otherwise it is going to fail. And what you have to do is you have to execute this command for restoration. We have already seen this couple of times, so we are not going to spend more time on this. So if I say pg underscore restore hyphen v verbose, no honor, don't put the honor, hyphen host, this is the target database name, this is the port name, and this is the admin user, which is postgre-admin, hyphen dv name is postgre, and this is the location of the dump file which is created. Ideally it should prompt for the password, but it will not prompt because we have set the environment variable, and the source and the target password for the user which is going to be supplied over here, it is same. And it is saying pg underscore restore connecting to the, and it has started the import. And this is happening. The important point over here is, let it finish very fast. Come on, it's just 15 tables. So what you need to mention is export pgssl mode equal to require. If you don't mention it, it is going to throw the error which says without TLS the error may read fatal and the SSL connection is required. So what you have to do is you have to say export pg SSL mode equal to require, and this is mandatory. You cannot skip this, so you better you put export this environment variable on the shell and get rid of any issue which is going to arise because of its absence. What next? Okay, we have restored the database into the target environment. And the most important part is how to migrate the roles. We have migrated the individual databases only. What about the roles or the users? So they need to be migrated separately to the Azure PostgreSQL before you are restoring the database. How can we do that? You have to use pg underscore dump all along with hyphen r. Hyphen r is for read roles only, because you explicitly wanted to capture the roles only. So ensure that you execute this command first. What is the syntax? The syntax is pg underscore dump all hyphen r. This is the switch which is used for exporting the roles only. Hyphen host, this is the source host name, then port, then the username, then the database, and then you give the output. So what we can do is using the pg underscore dump all, I wanted to take the backup of all the what do you say, the roles. So I'll say pg underscore dump all hyphen r, which is the switch for users or the roles. And if I simply, I have only Postgre, so it is going to show me the Postgre only. So if you just do the cat, you have taken the backup of the roles. In our case, I have only Postgre role, which is the default one, so it is going to show you. Create role Postgre, and whatever privileges it has, it is going to show you. The important point to be noted over there is if you have no super user and no bypass uh, RLS, then you need to remove those from that slash tmp slash roles.sql. Just graph for that, and if there are any lines, better you remove them. And this is the first thing which you have to do is you have to restore them. This is going to be the first step before you start the restoration. So you just say psql-f. In our case, this is just not what you say making any sense, but just for this demo we are saying, okay, let's import whatever roles you have exported using pgdumpall -r switch. Just import it all. So it is going to throw you the error role or Postgre already exists, or error it must be super user to create super users. So one important point over here, the dump script should not be created to run completely without errors. If it already exists, in our case it is Postgre, which is already existing in the target environment, so it will show you, please, the roles already exist, so we can ignore that. And what else? Then you have pgdump and psql. Okay, then we will see these three options. So option number one, if you just wanted to use pg_dump and psql, that means you wanted to take a SQL format output, then you use pg_sql, and using psql you import it to the target environment. If you wanted to use pgdump and pg_restore, which is highly recommended for this particular scenario, or any scenario wherein you have database size bigger in size, then you should use this. So the first thing which you should do is pg_dump -fc. We wanted to in a customized directory format, and if you enter it like this, okay, what is the name is source pg, and just make sure that you understand it is not prompting the password, because that's already exported. It has taken a backup, and the next thing which it will do is you have to restore it using -v, no owner, port number, username, and the database name. This we have already seen, we are not going to see it. Then the third option is streaming pump data to the target PostgreSQL. So that means if you do not have a PostgreSQL client, or if you just wanted to use the cloud shell, in that case, what you do is you make the SSL mode equal to whatever it is. Let's say it is require, and then you fire this complete command. So using this psql host, which is the target host, port is the port number of the target instance, database, and the admin user, it is going to import it over there. If you simply wanted uh, to do it using the one line dump and restore as a single line, so the backup part you put it over here, pg_dump -fc, which is the customized format, hyphen host, this is the source database name, server name, hyphen port. Then the username is the source admin user, hyphen db, let's say it is dvd rental. Let's see this one. Till here, this is your uh, details of the backup. Then we are piping it output to the pg restore. So in one line you have the backup, and then you're redirecting the output to the restore. And if you have let's say 100 databases, you replace the name one by one and the dump name, and you can do it for 100 times. Anywhere it should not prompt for the password, because you have exported that in a environment variable, and it is not going to prompt for that. These are some of the results which have been posted by the Azure, and it says if you have 1 GB of size of the database, then using this backup using pgdump, it is going to take 1 to 2 minutes. If it is 10 GB, it is going to take 15 to 20 minutes. And if it is more than 100 GB, it is going to take 2.5 to 3 hours. These are some of the standard results for the restoration. So normally we compare it to the 100 GB. So if it is 100 GB with say 2.5 hours or 3 hours, that is an idle time. But when you are using pg underscore dump and pg underscore restore, then you have the facility to use parallel backups and parallel restore. You utilize the power of the CPU, put it in the export job and put it in the import job, so that your export and import is going to be faster. So if your PostgreSQL source database is having the tables which are larger in size, then you can parallelize the dump and the restore. Let's say if I have 4 CPUs, you can put it to the parallelism to 4 for the backup, and for the restoration, if you have more, you can put it according to. So one of the CPU will be used for the one of the job. And it has been observed, like if you use the parallelism, then the if normally it has taken 1 to 1.5 hour, the same job is going to be reduced in 50%. So it is so much faster. So it is always advisable to use pg underscore dump and restore in parallel mode. So how can we do that? You just have to mention, I'll show you how it is. So we are going to use this way. So it is pg underscore dump hyphen fd. This is the source. This is source server name. This is port. This is username. This is database name. Hyphen j. This is the parallelism. Though I am wanted to make the parallelism degree of 4. This is the file already exists. Let me remove that. It is very small in size, just 15 MB, and but this is going to be very fast, because there will be 4 CPUs used in the backup process. And the same way, when you use the restoration, in that case also it is going to be the same way. So it is always advisable, when for you are going to use the migration using the native tools, always use the parallelism wherever applicable, according to the power of your managed instance. If so, it is always advisable you use a powerful managed instance, so that you can extract its power for the restoration and the backup purpose. Oh, the database doesn't exist. So if I simply create the database, then it is going to, let me create it. Create database, DVD rental, and then we will say, okay, the database is created. And now fire the import pg underscore restore in parallel mode. Oh, what happened? Target DVD rental. Yeah, here it goes. though you will not be able to using our visualization, it will not clearly distinguish that it is much faster. But if it is a bigger database in size, let's say 10 GB or so, then if your import has earlier taken 10 minutes, it should not take more than 50%. And it actually depends upon the power of your system and the parallelism which you have given. And that's all. The final thing which is there is about the once the import is completed, what we should actually be doing. Log into the target environment. The data is imported, and you should analyze the tables. This is going to make sure that you do not face the problem. So it is highly recommended to execute the analyze command in each database to refresh the pg underscore statistics table. Else you may face the performance issue. And last but not the least, always compare the PostgreSQL.conf file to ensure that the parameters which are there in your source Postgre, they should be at least same in your target environment. It should not be lesser. If it is higher, then make sure that you identify why you have increased it. But if it is a managed instance with the higher capacity, you can increase it according to the requirement. But it has to be apple to apple mapping at least for the mandatory parameters. So you ensure that you compare the PostgreSQL .conf parameter of source and the target. Otherwise, you may face several other issues. And also to the different lines which are connecting to it, ensure that the firewall ports are open so that they can connect to the new PostgreSQL instance and they connect to it. I hope this all is going to help, and thank you.